Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have a stellar XLM video for you guys today, something we haven't covered for some time. More recent news come out over the last 10 days around a teaser, an announcement coming from the Stellar Foundation team. This is now coming to fruition in the last 24 hours, so we'll cover this topic and see what was actually going on with this announcement and what they presented as a result. Before we go into this in a bit more detail, don't forget, of course, to smash that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and welcome to the channel. And please, if you could, kindly hit that like button also to get the channel and audience to wider and larger areas. Of course, we want to educate as many people around blockchain and DeFi space and some of the projects that we not only invest in, but also cover for you guys as well. So if there's any in particular, I know I've got a list already from the last few weeks, which we'll be doing in the People Crypto episode later this week. But for sure, keep them coming, guys, and we'll cover as many as we can, as much as we can. So guys, let's go into this topic of interest. So Stellar announcement in the last 10 days. There was a teaser campaign going around, something called particularly orientated around brand. There's a lot of discussion that it might be related to Apple keynotes, and that there's going to be a huge announcement between those. It might still happen, who knows? But the actual result of this announcement was a bit of a rebrand, guys. And it's quite funny because, as you can expect, the Twitter space or X space went into a bit of a meltdown saying, is that it? The announcements, you made it sound like it was a big thing, blah, blah, blah. But I go beyond that. From a marketing perspective, which is obviously a big part of my career, I absolutely love this. Not a huge fan of like the delivery of the visuals, but everyone's just gonna get used to it. To be honest, if I didn't know and I came onto it, it probably wouldn't matter. But I know where Stellar's come from and what they've done here. But we're not going to go into a subject matter of website visuals and layouts and stuff, because that's not what this channel's about. The main point here for me was the messaging, the delivery of the messaging and what they're trying to achieve with this rebrand. And it's really interesting to see this. So obviously there's a huge talk around their foundation and the grants given to companies around the world that are trying to start up. We've got aspects here about the Unbankable, the payment systems, on and off ramps, where we talk about crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto in terms of that transfer of money and how that works, how it's processed, etc. And tokenization. This is huge. We talk about this a lot on the channel, real world assets and other areas like CBDC, stable coins, etc. So we know these pillars that Stellar operates, but perhaps they didn't present it that well. And I always remember one of the last videos that we did of XLM, and someone in the comments was like, I really don't get what Stellar actually does. Like, it's not really defined. So yeah, I'm not saying they picked up on the comment on our channel, obviously, but what I'm suggesting is that every now and then, and particularly with the fact that I can't remember how long ago now, but the marketing team of Stellar was revamped over the last year or so, and that was obviously one of the key objectives, was to take it to a new level. So moving away from these articles, we now see in front of us what they're trying to achieve, and this is backed with a really cool intro video. We know Idris, or most of you, many of you out there will do. It's a really cool video. I'm not going to play it here just in case of copyright and stuff, but definitely check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below after this video is done. But it's very much around the messaging of helping the unbankable become bankable, increasing the improvement of society, diversification, equality, etc. And I think this is really important because we've got huge narratives from the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, since the signing of over 150 countries in 2015. In addition to Agenda 21, by the way, this is Agenda 30, leading up to 2030 goals and achievements that the world needs to try and adhere to. And the UN specifically talks heavily in a multitude of areas around how blockchain and cryptocurrency can improve society, how it can create positive change around the world. And of course, Stellar Foundation being a huge part or member throughout the World Economic Forum is, well, certainly something that concretes that narrative. It makes it more receptible in our minds to go, okay, we understand now there's goals and achievements required by the world's leaders, or these organizations. I don't know who voted for them, but they are above our governments. These guys dictate everything. For those that don't know, we could do a huge video on that, to be honest, but for another day. The point being is that there's structural targets in place, and particularly around the development and progression of society, the economy, the technologies behind this, and equality, diversification, etc. So there's all your pillars. And what's really interesting statistically wise, and something to hammer home, which we talked about before, but for those that are new to the channel, perhaps didn't know anyway, 2017 statistics came out that 1.5 billion people were unbankable. Okay, before we go into that in a bit more detail, I'll mention that more recently this number has gone to around roughly 2.2 billion, or just over 2 billion. So there's two trends there. Is that the population is obviously growing, we know this anyway, around the world, but that unbankable number increases. And this is not very good for the economy, for society moving forward. And if that trend continues, we're just going to have a humongous continuous divide. It will just keep continuing with this whole aspect of poverty and poor and rich and richer people. And there is a middle ground, obviously, but this is all diminishing since COVID and the way that we work, we do things in the last few years, for sure, not just organic, but has been forced through these systematic approaches. But when we take that layer back and we look at this unbankable figure and this thought process, we ask the questions of, well, how come people are unbankable? And I've come across some really interesting articles here and there about, well, how is this possible? And there's loads of different reasonings behind this. And some of the interesting points here were around some people not having the right documentation, or governments block it, banks block it for whatever reason. Some people say they don't have a bank account because their family member does, and this, that, and the other. Well, first and foremost, that latter point is really interesting, because I get why people do that, and why a lot of people don't have that opportunity to have the other banks, or they use family members. But a lot of that needs to stop as well, in conjunction with these other systematic things that they're trying to put in. Because we look at the opportunity of blockchain technology, the ability to see transparency, validation, processing, hopeful removal of things like money laundering, fraudulent activity, financial criminality, etc. It gives that reason to why people want their own bank account, rather than going, oh, there's too much this, that, and the other. The other things to consider, guys, is cross-border payments. So if you have family members across other countries and you need to send them money for whatever reason, that can be quite costly through existing systems, and it can also be a huge, lengthy process. We know that the existing remittance systems, RTGS, etc., they show an account sometimes immediately, but if you're doing cross-border ones, they can take days. And some people don't have days. Some people might need that money like instantly for whatever reason. And again, being able to avoid the bad things means there's an incremental reasoning behind why we need to achieve this technological advancement with the good things. And then you remove the reasons as to why people don't want a bank account. But for those that aren't being allowed to be given a bank account, well, of course, majority of people around the world have access to internet in some form, whether it's smartphone or internet cafes, whatever it might be. And this utilization of cryptocurrency being in a digital format opens up masses to this opportunity. Now, there's a really interesting topic in the most recent Digital Pound Foundation event that I went to about, well, actually, that's great, but do we want everyone to have access to money? Because we need to still have KYC, or certainly a barrier in the sense that we have checks and everything to protect everyone. And that comes within the frameworks, regulation, etc. that's all being built right now across the world in different countries, regions, parliamentary levels, organization levels, etc. But that's not for me to say or not say whether it's a good idea or not. Each country will make its own decisions, etc. But again, it relates all back to that circle of, well, if you're really part of this target group of the Agenda 30 program, you will open it up to everyone. Again, removing hopefully all the negative stuff to allow it to be, safe, secure, private, etc., etc. So there's all these really interesting pillars going on and reasonings as to why Stellar has made this approach, because we know the Stellar Foundation is absolutely huge in terms of developing grants to achieve business startups, to help this encouragement of users of Stellar XLM to help push those kind of like crowdfund kind of things, but also their ability to provide a technological framework for stablecoins, other real world assets, etc. So when you talk about tokenization, real world assets, digitalization of physical assets, this can open up to everyone. This isn't just people who have already got access to this stuff. We're talking about the people that are really going to benefit are the people that aren't in these systems already. And the opportunity for blockchain and crypto, which is one of the reasons why I got excited about it in the first place, was the opportunity to improve the world, to make things more equal. And I've always believed, and I always find it an unfair thing that people are just born into the world in their own remits, fairly or unfairly. And it's like, well, how we sometimes make our own like decisions, our own paths, but actually equally as well, everyone should have the opportunity to have that level opportunity. The equality aspect is missing significantly in this world, and that is one of the reasons why I liked Stellar XLM. You know, okay, yes, we want the price to go up because of the monetary values and stuff and what we hold, but the understanding of, you know, what the XLM token is for, of course, there's a multitude of reasons. It's obviously helping with the bridging of currencies, particularly cross-border, which helps massively this conversation that we've been talking about. And of course, the utilization through the actual technology itself. There's a multitude of other reasons why XLM is used and how it's used. But the point being is that when me as an investor, I also have a moral compass on there sometimes to go, actually, what is this project doing to improve the world, to increase the economy, the society, improve people's livelihoods? It's really interesting, guys, to see this development. But yeah, this is the reference here, 2.5 billion people more recently. Absolutely huge. Now, this is, as I said, one of the reasons why I found this branding enhancement interesting. And I think people just need to uncover the eyes a bit and go, oh God, was that it? Was that just the announcement? Actually look at the bigger picture. There's a reason behind this. Now, a lot of websites, guys, in the crypto space have been so static. Some of them don't even update things regularly. And I think it's very important in this transitional development period, in bear markets, winter markets, you know, that's talking about the investment side of it. If you go through that mist and you go, what is this technology? What is this project about? What are they trying to achieve? It becomes so much clearer when you look at this. So if you are a retail investor, you should actually be excited about this stuff, because it's gearing people up, not just from the investment perspective, but if you're a company or an organization or a project coming into the space of crypto, go, maybe this is the answer. And Stellar's right up there anyway in what was it, the top 50? I'm pretty sure it is, cryptocurrencies on CoinMarketCap, etc. Or you're looking for projects to build on or develop on or start up within, Stellar is right up there. And it has so many great, aspirations itself, but also has great solutions for people that want to do that kind of thing. So you should be excited about this. I know you wanted big announcements and collaboration stuff, and that still on goes in the background. Their partnerships are going all over the place all the time. The ecosystem's building all the time. But for me, it's the narrative. So when we come out of this development stage, over this last year that we've had and the year coming until we get to that next bull cycle, when people jump in mass audience wise and they're doing no research, they'll come onto something really special with Stellar, in my opinion. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on this. Maybe you're one of those that are you're angry about the announcement or the way it was done or whatever. Was it market manipulation? Who knows? But I think, as I said, let's put the emotion out of it, put the serious heads on, and realize that this is actually really interesting to help promote the change in the world that we really need help with. And I think Stellar Foundation is pushing that. So go and watch the video, go and check out the site, think about all those actions and thought processes that we just mentioned in this video, and you conclude it a bit differently. I was in the boat last night going, wow, really, is that it? That's going to annoy a lot of people. But actually I was like, okay, step back. When we're doing this video and research, what can we actually take out of this positively? And it's super cool, in my opinion. So well done, Stellar team. Of course, as an investor, it's not the news we thought it would be or expected, but it's certainly something when we look to the future of this development, this project and technology and blockchain in general, it's done itself proud, in my opinion. So let's, guys, take a look at the price point, because that was a bit of a reflective point over the last 10 days. So we take ourselves back, I think, to the beginning of September. It didn't match the heights that we saw a month or 2 months ago back up here towards 20 cents. But we did see a little spike. So I'm sure people took advantage of this as the announcement was kind of portrayed as a teaser. I think it was around the 2nd of September. So we took that uprise from around about 11.2 cents, and it shot all the way up to 13.36 cents. So we're not talking about huge, significant, life-changing numbers here unless you've got gigantic volumes of XLM. But to put that into a tiny bit of perspective, it was at least a slight increase of around about 22%. So for those that took advantage, well done. Obviously, we've had a bit of a retracement since then, and we've come back down around about 10 to 12%. So what can we take from this is that, okay, that announcement had a bit of an excitement towards it and a bit of price change. Some people would have taken advantage, of course. But what's really interesting is the price that it's coming back down to. So it's obviously trying to match back up to what we saw in the recent downfall of those, couple of months that we had positively, down towards this sort of 11% mark again. Now this matches up quite uniquely to a few Fib retracement levels here. So just to put some elaborative areas here, this is the long-term chart we got from one of the lowest points, if not the lowest point possible for XLM, back down here at 2.5 cents, all the way up to its highest point that we saw in the bull run in 2021, which is all the way up here around 80 cents. Now we can take that longer term one, which is possibly missing off this chart. We've got the macro one here, the medium level, which is taking up to one of the most recent high points, and we've got some of the lower level ones here too. And what we can identify here is some areas of interest. So we've actually got an overlay of one or two, indeed three areas of interest, which is basically accumulating its area around here. And what's interesting about this is if we look in the historic data, is the points of resistance and support at key levels in history of XLM. This traces all the way back to 2019, by the way, guys. So in the general long-term aspect of XLM, there isn't a huge amount of data at this area. So this is real interesting testing ground at these four specific areas. Last major development around this area was last year, October, September 2022. And since then, of course, it's been in a downward trend and it's tried to spike itself up. But look at this. It wasn't too far off this area here. The blue line was what we're considering as a conversation. If you look all the way back, this is where we've seen a bit of a magnetism in history of XLM's token price in the chart. So these areas of interest, because we will probably be bouncing around this 11/12 cent area for some time, and we will probably be retesting these lower regions still again as well, because we again don't have significant data to suggest that that is a support level, and we need support to create a proper foundation for the XLM token to really push itself upward and beyond, and for people to have proper confidence in this token and invest in it more so than ever before, and especially as we get to those bull run conversations over the next year or two. So we identify a couple of things. One, for me personally, is looking for a bit of stability first and foremost before I enter back into XLM and accumulate more. So at the moment, the bottom left RSIs 14 is showing 44, 28 days showing 47 respectively. I just want that to come down a bit further, which will probably happen over the next few days, bouncing around this partial area here. For me to go, cool, it's a bit more stable now, I'm going to accumulate. This is not financial advice, this is what I'm doing personally and what's been working for a long time as a long-term accumulator of XLM, not so much a trader. But for those that do trade, of course, you can see the significant opportunities in the short and the long term for XLM, especially around announcements, but more importantly, these fluctuation patterns. You probably don't need me to tell you because you're trading regularly anyway, but the fib levels do tell a story, as do the RSIs and the other indicators that we can use as well. So there's an interesting area as we are currently at the moment. The other opportunities potentially are around the lower regions of 11 cents. As I said, there's an opportunity for us to have to retest this area before we can really push ourselves forwards. And that's really confirmed, particularly in this 2022 area where it just could not break that barrier. The only time we broke that barrier since then was this moment here. July 13th, 2023. It did that quite significantly up to that 20 cent mark, and then it's dropped itself back down. This is where the magnet comes in. So people go, oh, XLM's going to the moon, but it won't do that specifically straight away at all. It has to come back down. It's like gravity, guys. It's like gravity, and it's looping around these particular data interest points. So that is certainly where I've got a buy order. I've got an interesting buy order around this 12 cent mark where we currently are. I've got one down at 11 cents. Have I got one lower? Not quite yet. I want to see us get to that 11 cent mark before I reassess a position lower than that. The next potential coordinated pattern would probably be, for me personally, just sitting above that 10 cent mark if I was to, but I won't be doing that just yet for sure. But you can clearly see in the fib retracement levels, the support areas. If we break these, if this doesn't support, we do break down to the lower incremental values of 10 cents and slightly lower at 9.4. It has happened many times in recent months, and that's why I'm quite interested in these areas. If we draw these particular looped areas across that fib level, it again matches all the way across back towards 2019 to suggest that even those areas are possibilities again in the near future. So they're my points of interest with the here and now, and obviously where we could get to eventually in the coming weeks. These announcements will come out, obviously the rebrand, etc. So I anticipate a bit of a tail off as that news reduces itself, unless something does come out with Apple or something crazy. It will be around this area for sure, in my opinion. The upward trends, of course, the next barriers up would be around that 15-cent mark, and obviously the traditional 20-cent mark up here. So if you are a trader and you're looking for profit taking, those are probably interesting areas, to be honest, if it was me. But yes, that's where I am at the moment with it. Performance side of XLM on the right hand side here, you can see the weekly and the monthly are down despite the uptake in the last 10 days or so. Kind of expected after the big trend that we saw in July. But of course that 3 months and 6 months is slightly skewed by that movement as well. It's not quite a stabilized percentage indicator of performance across the board for that year specifically. So I don't look into too much detail, but what it does tell a story is that there's still not a giant amount of confidence in the market. Still, people are accumulating for sure. The volumes are definitely there. It's just that there's no real reasoning to be fully on loading other than accumulating XLM at the best prices possible, which is what I'm doing personally for the long-term future of XLM. So that's where I'm sat with it. That's where XLM is. That's where I think it may be going. Again, not financial advice, just my thoughts and opinions and what I'm doing with these market accumulation opportunities. For those that asked the other day where I buy XLM, well, I used to buy it a lot on KuCoin and then transfer it to my Ledger. I now buy directly through Ledger using the MoonPay service. It was really cool because it goes directly in there. The fees are quite low as well. It's definitely something to check out if you've got one. But yeah, of course, it's a multitude of exchanges to get XLM. But yes, keep an eye on it, guys. We'll keep you updated. If anything else flashes up, we'll do a YouTube short on XLM's progress in the coming days if something crazy happens. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching this one. We'll see you in the next Stellar XLM video update. Bye-bye.